Welcome back. Now it's the time that you can call in with your questions. The number to call is 0808 054 2233. That's 0808 054 2233. And if your tweets come in time at CTV_Mary A, they might be taken on the program. We're talking about constipation. Now, let's talk about re-establishing the bowel pattern. How long does it take if you have to actually manually evacuate for somebody to be normal again? What really is normal now for that person?
Okay, like I said, constipation is not something that, most people have had to live with. So they must have they must have had a pattern and then noticed all of a sudden that that pattern has kind of changed. So when this pattern has changed from the previous one, we'll assume the previous one was normal for that person. So once you're able to get the previous pattern, then we have re-established normal pattern. Okay, and you can get normal pattern, or the person can be made to pass to immediately, if you're able to do an enema, or there are some laxatives that person can take. But we usually try to advise people to avoid having to depend on laxatives.
Why?
Yeah, because they have long-term effects that are usually not very good, and having to take medication to make you stool is not really in your best interest.
They get used to it, right?
They get used to it.
And then after a while, can't really
After a while,
go on their own.
It doesn't even work, in fact. After a while,
it doesn't
the
even work
yes,
after
because
a while.
your body now, kind of adapts to this laxative, and then it's no longer able to do what it should do. Your body now becomes like adapted to it.
Let's take this call from Lawal from Aja. Hello, Lawal.
Yeah, it's done.
Your question.
Hello.
Hello, Lawal.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you. Go on with your question.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Lawa from Aja. The question I want to ask is, there was a time I did some operation on laparoscopy, appendectomy, but on the right hand side, whenever I want to use myself, I still feel pain on the right side, lower part of my tummy. So that be constipation.
Okay, thank you, Lawal. We've got that.
Okay, I think what I understand from his
question
that
was an appendectomy.
Yeah, so he has this pain in the right side of his abdomen whenever he wants to go to the toilet. So no, based on what I think, what I explain as constipation, it's really your bowel pattern. It is not whether you have pain or not. So you have a pattern that has changed. So if you've been going every day and then you suddenly start going once a week, for you that's constipation. If your stools are hard, you have to strain to pass it, that's constipation. Okay,
so perhaps Lawal needs to go see the doctor,
yes,
for a follow-up on that whatever procedure was done.
He did.
Okay, can stress affect the bowel pattern?
Yes. Now, how? I mentioned the condition just now, irritable bowel syndrome. It's been shown that sometimes your psyche, your psychology affects your general body behavior, and the intestines are part of it. So you find that sometimes when you're under a lot of stress, you just seem to have different things. Some develop diarrhea, some become constipated, some have this very bad heartburn that you just can't understand. People have headaches, people begin to have migraines. So the body, we like to tell people that the body is one. So wherever you have issues with one, the other parts may join hands and then, present in their own form. So you may be thinking it's totally unrelated, but they're all one and the same. So sometimes when you're stressed, yes, under a lot of stress, you may find that you're not stooling.
Okay, what would you tell somebody to do to prevent constipation?
Okay, so bearing in mind that that person is healthy, he doesn't have any of these health conditions that predispose to constipation, we usually advise people to do exercise, take a lot of water, take a lot of fiber in their fruits, in their vegetables, whole bran, whole wheat bread, oatmeal, these things tend to prevent.
What are the things that actually, food items that actually don't help with the bowel movement?
Oh, highly processed foods, refined sugars. These are the kind of rice we like to eat that has been highly refined. White bread. Some people take gari that they sieve. They sieve gari because they don't like the fiber. So these are things that don't have enough fiber.
Okay, we have a call from Abuja. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Let's have your question. Your name is?
Farouk from Abuja.
Farouk. Let's have your question, Farouk.
Concerning the matter, I just take it sometimes. I sleep, I just wake up, I find out very weak.
And find out?
I'm very hard. Sorry?
I'm trying to understand your question.
It's very difficult for me to stand up. I try, I force myself to stand up, drink some cup of water, I'll feel okay for the rest of the day. When it comes to eating, when I'm about to eat, things happen.
Okay, thank you, Farouk. I don't think that's in the scope of our discussion for today, but is there a way we can help Farouk? Perhaps send him to a specialist?
Well, usually I think people just don't like having to go to a hospital. I think they have to understand that hospitals, we have different types of hospitals. You don't have to go to the big ones. You can start with the health centers and then the general hospitals.
They can always refer, can't they?
Exactly. So if you start from there, whatever they can't handle, they'll refer you appropriately.
Okay, thank you. Now you spoke of piles. That's somebody having hemorrhoids as a result of straining. First of all, I want to ask, what kind of problems, apart from piles, does straining, give a person? Meanwhile, straining is not just during constipation. Sometimes it's during diarrhea. What kind of problems would straining at stools cause?
Okay, first of all, I have to try and explain that.
Okay, just a minute. Let's take Biodun from Abuja first and come back to that question. Yeah. Hello, Biodun.
And good morning.
Good morning.
Please, my little baby keeps having this repeated experience because he's on a formula now. He's 4 months, formula and breast milk. Okay. And I give him water too. But I don't know, maybe it's the formula that is causing it or what could probably be the cause.
Oh, thank you so much, Biodun. That's a good one there.
Okay.
Is this formula causing the little child's constipation?
It's possible. Most of the formulas have cow milk as the base, and a lot of children don't tolerate it so well in the first few months of their lives. So we try to encourage mothers. I know it's difficult to try and do an exclusive for the first 6 months, and then when they are going to try and wean them off, they shouldn't do formula. They should just start with semi-solids, okay, pap, where they mix it with ground crayfish or fish, so that children don't even have to go through formulas at all.
But for a child who is already on formula, they say it's really difficult to get that child off. Okay. And back on breast milk, as maybe the mother realizes, oh, I don't need to do this, but the child doesn't want the breast milk anymore. Can they make the formula, the consistency thinner to help the child?
I think they can. I'm not a pediatrician, but yes, they can, or they should do a lot of water. Okay, so the child has enough water, to help with digestion, and then helps him to pass out stool a bit more easy.
Okay, so we were talking about the complications of straining, and what are those complications? Okay. You've mentioned tears. Yes. You've mentioned hemorrhoids. What else?
Sometimes when you strain, you just said that straining is not only when there's constipation, which is true. So when you have to strain, you're contracting the walls of your abdomen and that you're trying to force something out. So it causes like a balloon.
Okay.
Ballooning of the wall of the abdomen, and can cause hernias. So hernias are another, problem that people with constipation can have, meaning that they have these swellings in the wall of their abdomen. Sometimes the intestine actually you know, forces its way into the swellings, and then they end up having a lot of pain and they're vomiting.
That is really complicated.
Yes, and they may have to have a surgery to correct
And
that.
to think that these things can be avoided with just simple lifestyle changes. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Dr. Owusheni. Thanks for being with us and spending this 30 minutes of wonderful educative time with us. Enjoy the rest of your day. I am Mary Alale Yusuf.